we're pleased to be joined by our first guest today for an angle on that on the first responders side. Captain Matt DeRousse joins us from the Bloomfield Township Fire Department once again on the Oakland County MegaCast. Captain, thank you for being with us today.
Good morning.
Appreciate having you on. How are you? How's the team over at the Bloomfield Township Fire Department?
Everybody's doing well, holding up good.
That's good to hear. So we've had, in the month of July, we had a bit of an uptick in COVID-19 cases. It's leveled off a bit and plateaued a bit, but there's some changes to what we've been seeing in the trends related to COVID-19. A lot more younger people are getting infected with COVID-19, and lately we've seen a lot of hot debate about public gatherings or private gatherings of people for grad parties, the family and friendly get-togethers, and so on. That is leading to further spread of the virus. In Bloomfield Township, has your department, in partnership, of course, with the police department and with the township office, have you had any issues with gatherings in your community that may potentially be harmful, such as those?
I'm sure there have been some of the grad parties and things like that. We don't necessarily get word of that. As far as I know, things are going pretty well here. But that is, all those things that you mentioned are the risk. The younger generation right now have grown impatient. You mentioned 5 months into this. There are larger gatherings, whether it be the grad parties, whether it be travel sports, which has been happening all summer long. All of these things were put into place and able to carry on with safeguards, the distancing and the masks. But what I'm hearing is a lot of these sporting events, they are not doing, what they really should be doing to keep themselves separate. So with this increase in activity, we're going to see the increase in cases that we have.
Captain DeRousse, at that point with those sporting events and with those private gatherings, what can you do as a first responder, as the public team that is on the front lines battling this, and with the education of the community being paramount? What do you do in that case to, you're not necessarily going to tell these families that they shouldn't be having these rites of passage moments or these celebrations of milestones in life, but they have to be able to do them safely and smartly. What does your department do in that case to provide that education to these people and maybe lead them to a better path where they're not potentially putting themselves and maybe others in danger?
Well, the word of education is exactly what we have to do. We have to just get the word out and let them know that these safeguards are in place for a reason. Distancing is important for a reason, and face coverings are important. We have to lead by example. We can't enforce really what's going on out in the community. Outside of just the education aspect, that's what we can do. Inside our department, we also have to enforce, make sure that all of our personnel know that this type of activity outside of the workplace is really what's going to bring COVID-19 into our workplace. We have a lot of the personal protective equipment. We have a lot of protocols in place so that when we're actively on medical runs and having exposure to potential COVID patients, we're protected. So we feel very safe here at work. It is what is happening outside of our work day that increases our risk. So we just have to stress and educate with our own personnel that be very careful what you do when you leave here and don't attend those type of gatherings. And if you do, or if you have to, make sure you do have face coverings, social distance, and keep those things in the forefront of your mind when you're doing it.
So you mentioned a little bit about outside and being outside. I know that a lot of the businesses, the restaurants, and have been able to expand into their parking lots and in some cases the roadway so that they can offer service to more people. How is the fire department working with some of these businesses about safe practices in that arena?
Our fire marshal has worked very closely with a lot of the businesses. The businesses will work with the building department and the township administration with a proposal that then has to get run through the course, through the building and planning. And then the plans are examined by our fire marshal, and he makes recommendations based on what he sees, and that is spacing, safety, spacing from roadways. It's the occupancy level, it's barriers. All of those things are taken into consideration. A lot of them have wanted to put a temporary structure, temporary tents, and all of those things have to comply with fire code. So we've been very involved with the restaurants in our area.
Matt DeRousse with us. He is the captain of the Bloomfield Township Fire Department, with us on the Oakland County Megacast and all across the local area, including some of the local stations in the Bloomfield Township area, such as 88.1 WBFH, the Biff, and Birmingham Area Municipal Access. We thank them, of course, for being with us each and every day. So, Captain DeRousse, another thing we've seen come up in the last couple of weeks is Governor Whitmer has encouraged departments throughout the state to put more emphasis on enforcement and of course education once again of the COVID-19 compliance regulations for businesses, for public gatherings, and so on. What has your department's educational efforts in the community had to increase in recent weeks? Are people starting to really pick up those messages that you've been sending out over these past 5 months, taking them to heart, and is Bloomfield Township doing a great job of educating itself at this point?
I think so. Yeah, I really have not been aware of large gatherings or violations or problems in the area. So I do think the message from very early on was to comply with Governor Whitmer's orders. I know the police department has, from the very beginning, kept an eye on, and I really don't believe they've had to do a whole lot of enforcement. They watch it, they break up the gatherings. They're present. So I think the community's been very safe as a whole from what I'm seeing.
Captain DeRousse, just another couple minutes with you on the Oakland County Megacast. Captain Matt DeRousse, of course, with the Bloomfield Township Fire Department. Anything else that's important for the people of Bloomfield Township or even surrounding areas to know as we're going forward, as we are now in the thick of month 5 of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, I'm actually curious to see what's going to happen here this fall with the schools at the end of the summer and fall with schools, and what's going to happen here locally. I've heard that in the Bloomfield Hills School District that families have a choice to either come to school or stay home. But I know this is ever changing as we're getting more and more data, and they're reviewing their process and what they're going to do. So I'm very curious to see how that's going to play out this fall. I know that there's a lot of concern. I know that population with the younger adults, they just aren't all that compliant in terms of social distancing and keeping spread apart, which is going to put some families at risk. It's going to put faculty at risk. So for me, I'm very curious to see in the next couple of weeks what happens here.
Captain DeRousse, anything else for us today?
Nope, just continue to remember all of those things that we've learned since April. Keep your distance, keep your gatherings small, just be smart, be considerate when you're out in the public, wear a face covering. That really does make a difference. And just as a reminder for all, when you wear a face covering, it doesn't have to be an N95. It's just a face covering to keep your particulates from being exhaled. And it's really protecting others around you if you happen to have the virus and you're not aware of it. So it's a courtesy. It's not there's a lot of debate about, well, that's not going to protect you. Well, no, it's not. But if we all have face coverings on and we are minimizing the droplets and the amount of exposure to the virus, then we're all better off. So that's the only thing I'd like to remind people to do, and just keep doing what you're doing. Everybody's doing pretty well so far in the state of Michigan.
Well, we appreciate having you on today, Captain.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Captain Matt DeRousse from the Bloomfield Township Fire Department with us on the Oakland County Megacast.